going into those playoffs. And at least for now, bans are going to stay basically the same. In fact, I think exactly the same from game number 1 on blue side here for AL. And then Top Esports, of course, still banning out the Pantheon and the Varus. You can't give those over to Hope and to Tarzan. If the Azir is this final ban, it will be the same as game number 1, which it will be. So identical bans there. Talia still on the board, was not picked or banned in game 1. So we'll see if that wants to be a priority. But actually, it's going to be Sion for Flandre, probably his best champion this year.
Yeah, I mean, whenever he's on this pick, AL seem to do pretty well. I mean, you have some pretty viral moments throughout the season on this champion specifically, although it is a pick that can get punished relatively well in the early stages, and so that could be what TES decide to go for instead. Going for the Corki for JackeyLove, could go to Creme as well, but you're expecting something that could just do a lot of damage in the bot lane here for Top Esports long-standing franchise player.
Definitely makes more sense to go to JackeyLove. However, it is worth noting that Creme was one of the better Corki players last year when, you know, that champion was really running rampant in the mid lane. So technically it is still a flex, as you noted, but definitely would expect this to go bot lane. And I think it is just a consistent piece. They want to try to get something aggressive as the answer to the Sion as well on the top side, and it will be 369's Aatrox. He's had some phenomenal games on this champion throughout his career. We'll see if this can be another one. This will be his 4th Aatrox of the split, and all of the games have looked relatively okay from him. Again, some good and some bad performances, but definitely needs to take the aggression to this Sion early to not allow Flandre to be as safe as maybe he would want to be going into the late game.
Yeah, I mean, this is always a great matchup here for the Aatrox. Just get yourself a free lane and then really start to scale into the late game team fights. Speaking of team fights, we get Orianna locked in for Shanks, one of his better champions throughout the season. Of course, with that Azir already taken away. Wonder if we see something like a Jarvan, a Nocturne. A lot of options available here for Tarzan, who, again, needs to be really solid in finding his engages, finding his right moments. The Vi is going to certainly help do that.
Yeah, Vi gives Tarzan a lot of tempo to be able to play around the map. Obviously, you know, depending on what the answer is on the side of Top Esports, but a lot of the aggressive junglers that you'd want to answer Vi with, they're not available right now. Pantheon is, of course, still banned out. Trundle is banned out, and you had the Xin Zhao taken off the board in game number 1. So not as many answers to that Vi as maybe you would like coming into this game number 2, but it does give, you know, AL at least some opportunity to play through the mid game, which they couldn't really do at all in the previous game, looking for that scaling. But the Rel is going to be the lock-in here as a pairing for the Corki. This will give Top Esports the chance to ban out a lot of those bot lane matchups they don't want to see, which I think is huge. And Hong got player of the game in game 1 for a reason. I think giving him another playmaker that can engage is a good deal.
And the Rel is certainly a champion he has experience with on Weibo this season, and as you say, now can target some bot lane picks, you know, things like the Poppy, support for Kael, a Braum potentially on the table to be banned away as well. On AL side, though, as you mentioned, continue to pinch Kanavi's pool. Probably would be a pretty good sign of things in terms of your expectations, but it looks like actually showing some love to Creme as well. Aurora typically does decent into that Orianna, especially in the early game, so not surprised to see that one taken away.
Yeah, I think it's possible that we just see a mage into mage matchup here. If they want to ban out things like Victor, I think that would also make sense to take off the board for Creme. Outside of that, I don't know, Creme could go to his assassins, you know, Ahri, Akali. These are the kinds of things that would kind of be the next on the board in terms of trying to play around the Vi and trying to actually, you know, pressure up. But that would mean a pretty specific jungle pick. I imagine there's still a lot of options available, but it will just be the Talia banned out here. Somehow, some way that champion has made it through pick and ban all the way to second rotation here in game 2, but will not be the option, as one of the champions that you at the very least talked about earlier is hovered here. We'll see what ends up being the lock, but they do need some playmaking. They need some setup here. The Rel can't do it all on her own.
Most likely a mid-jungle selection here for TES, unless, of course, we see that flex of the Corki into the mid lane. Although with the Jarvan lock-in, that would certainly make it much less likely. Akali going to be a spicy lock-in here to try to counter this Orianna specifically, but an immediate answer by anyone's legend, going for the Kalista Renata bottom side into the Corki Rel.
This was a bot lane AL had a ton of success with in Split 2 in terms of the regular season. Obviously, the opinion of Kalista has changed quite a bit over the last couple of months, but this champ can still be very effective in terms of taking the game to a champion like Corki. Akali, I think, is a great matchup into Orianna, and Creme is obviously known as a bit of an assassin player. Let's not forget he was called Zeka Light for a very long time when he was on OMG, and so he'll get the chance to flex that, but it's the jungle pick now that's going to get locked in for Top Esports, and it's Jarvan that will round out the comp. So that setup that we were looking looking for. I think both of these comps are intriguing. I think Top Esports really want to utilize the copious amounts of engage that they've drafted for themselves to be able to get leads in the early game, but if you could just stall the game out a little bit for AL, you know, Kalista's going to be able to likely generate a lead on her own. Orianna's going to be a problem in the late game. Sion's going to be a problem in the late game. You know, I'm a little bit concerned about whether or not Top Esports can really blast through, but, you know, I think this is still a skill execution type of draft.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the Jarvan still get locked in after the Kalista was selected by Hope, but it seems like the target is just going to be Shanks over and over again in these team fights. It's going to be up to AL to try to make sure that their mid laner stays alive in this one. The damage profiles on both sides are interesting. I think JackeyLove definitely has the biggest 1v9 potential in terms of just taking over a team fight on this Corki, but definitely going to be at risk in the initial 2v2. Kalista Renata, very powerful in that laning phase, a big reason why it does end up getting selected. As for anyone's legend, they do overall have a lot of good team fighting tools. The question is, will they have the DPS to finish off Top Esports before, of course, they come online and before Creme on his Akali starts? The best team in the league, like their first place record suggests, they took game number 1 of this series against the defending champions of anyone's legend. And we'll see if AL's second half streak will come to an end here, or if a decider will be forced. We're on to the Rift for game number 2.
As we are on to the Rift for game 2. Once again, it's AL with the traditional ward start here. Tarzan trying to get as much vision as he can of Kanavi, who once again will just spot it out. He's actually going to get some deeper vision this time than he typically is allowed, getting a ward in the bush. Not going to matter too much, but is going to at the very least be able to track. Going to be a bit of a trade on the bottom side of the map, but hoping Kael just hoping to get that big 2v2 lead down on the bottom side.
What this Kalista Renata lane is designed to do, as we might see a little bit of early skirmishing to start things off. Hong not on the dismounted rel, so we'll be able to do a lot of work here on the crash down onto multiple members potentially here. So we're getting Flandre leashing Tarzan to start things off. We don't see this every day.
Yeah, typically you don't really see a top laner wanting to sacrifice too much on the initial top side here, but Hope immediately gonna have to burn things.
Yeah, barrier already popped. Nicely done by Hong. I mean, interestingly, AL knew that was happening and still ended up getting punished for it. That's a nice play by Hong, and looks like they're going to continue to go in once again. Flash is going to be nicely procced there by Hope, and is going to come at the cost of JackeyLove's life as they go forward and pick up first blood. Crash down lands once again on the Hope. One more auto from Hong will make it a trade, and so just the ADCs going down, but it's anyone's legend that end up cracking first.
Oh, it's a fiesta already, Grapes, in terms of how things are breaking down. Flash and barrier used for JackeyLove. Flash and barrier used for Hope. Obviously, both sums used for Kael, who will get them back with Summoner's Spellbook. Heal utilized for Hong as well. Flash, you know, the #1 Flash as well there, too. We're still seeing some supportal combat go on. A fiesta really kicking off on the bottom side of the map. It ends up being kills on supports at the very least, and so it's not entirely game-breaking, but Kanavi taking a lot of damage pathing through the mid lane.
What did he do? Did he take a wolf camp? How is he at 8? How is he at 8? How's he at 2 camps if only... Am I crazy? Did he steal something? He must have stolen something.
Yeah, he must have. We didn't get a chance to check because of just how insane that 2v2 was, but again, at 8 CS and level 2, you know, as his Raptors and Krugs are still up. Certainly something going on there. We'll have to, you know, maybe check that out after the game, but at least for now, still an okay spot, I would say, for everyone involved. Somehow, some way, I think we walk out of that relatively neutral, but it is a nice kill for the Kalista, who's going to continue to have a ton of pressure. Level 2s are being hit, though, and 369 struggling on the top side.
Just trying to get this wave crashed in before he can call this a full success. Is taking a look at how this one did unfold. It looked like initially a great play here from Hong, but Hope doing a nice job to turn it around, especially by buffering the flash that he was expecting to come out from the rel.
Yeah, I mean, they opted in to this fight. They knew exactly what they were getting into, but once the flash is committed by Rel and there's not enough damage coming in from the Corki, it's a free kill going over to the side of the Renata. And we're not even done here as Top Esports is getting dove.
Oh, nice handshake. Lands on a JackeyLove from Kael. He's going to get bailed out and keep himself alive until that final turret shot hits. Another one comes through as that tower just does too much damn damage at this point in the game. 2 for 1 off of the dive from Top Esports' side. As AL get punished for a little bit of an over-aggressive play.
So much is going on right now, Graves. There is so much to talk about on the bottom side of the map. It's a very greedy dive from AL that's difficult to pull off. I get that they feel they have the bailout to be able to keep things safe, but you can't really take more than 1 or 2 tower shots at this level and continue to be fine as Kanavi continues to completely take away camps from Tarzan. He's in a really good spot in this jungle matchup as Kael makes his way to the top side, but we're going to get a replay of how this is set up. It's just a greedy dive in terms of what they're trying to set up. The handshake is perfect onto JackeyLove right into Tarzan, but again, it's just too much damage coming down. It's a kill over on Kael, and it's another kill that ends up going over. One more for Hong, who's got 2 kills at this point in the game. Yes, you're able to trade a kill onto JackeyLove, but overall, I think that is a gold swing in favor of Top Esports, and it takes the lead for AL and kind of gets rid of it.
I mean, a really nice shot from Hong once again on the rel, helping Top Esports come alive here. And if you want to play like Hong, top tier support, well, you can get some coaching over at ProDiff, the sponsor here of LPL English. Use that code LPL10 to save 10% on ProDiff. I've been trying to get this read in for so long, but the action still does not stop as Shanks getting targeted by Hong once again. Hey, we had Rhino on the show a little bit earlier. He is also a ProDiff coach. They offer coaches across the LTA, the ERLs, even the NACL. So if you want to get some help with that, LPL 10 will save you 10%. You could look like some of these pros that are playing on the Rift.
Yeah, I think you are definitely trying to look like Hong in this game because he is really showcasing why he got player of the game in Game 1, why he's been considered an upgrade here for Top Esports, and ProDiff definitely, you know, will get you there. But Dragon is the priority here.
Ooh, field goal.
Not in the area.
There for Flandre, not finding a stop onslaught out of anybody. It's going to cost him a whole lot. Creme going forward with the perfect execution and taking down the Scion. Dragon secured by him as well. TES finding a big play into the Dragon Pit as Creme gets himself a double kill. And that's now the Akali unlocked in this game as well.
Another huge win for Top Esports. Yes, they have to trade out Kanavi, but that is perfectly fine. You get a double kill on this Akali, who is a huge win condition for this composition, and you get the Dragon. Everything kind of going TES's way. Once again, it's early execution that ends up making the difference. That's where TES ends up really separating themselves from AL.
Anyone's Legend still kind of faltering at this point. A lot of game left to be played, but this is a big fight won by TES, and starts here by Flandre not finding anything with his initial engage, and Tarzan was forced out of the pit very, very early in this one.
Yeah, it's really difficult for basically anybody on AL to play this the moment Flandre goes in and doesn't hit a single person with the knockup. At this point, it really just comes down to whether or not you can get that damage in. Unfortunately, the smite comes down early because of the lack of layering, but I can't even talk. Hope.
Another snap engaged by Hong. Really nicely played. He's having himself a great series so far. Forcing another flash out of Hope. Probably getting him back to base as well. That's going to give TS a beautiful timer to play on these grubs that spawn in 30.
Hong is an absolute menace right now in this series. He has completely gapped all of AL in terms of these early game plays. If he's going to be able to keep this up, Top Esports are immediately going to be in a great spot. But we will see if he's going to be able to do so. He's got some teammates that are starting to get online. Grubs are spawning in 10 seconds. That's the next massive objective to try and fight over. And JackeyLove has hit level 6 for this fight. It's going to be very playable for TES.
Ooh, both supports saw each other through the sweepers, and that meant Kael knew he had to get on out of there. As Hong hex flashed over the wall, get a little bit extra space. Grubs have been started up, should be easily secured with Tarzan very separated from the rest of his team and the rest of the pit. It looks like now with that first one taken down, they do want to go for a play. Tarzan going forward and missing that initial Q, and it's going to cost him a whole lot. He gets bailed out, but it's not going to get taken another kill in time. Cataclysm lands on a 2. Creme dashing forward with that perfect execution, looking for another one on to Hope or Kael, but now it's the kite back on out. Already a 1-0, and TES can continue to try to take down these grubs. They've already gotten a second, looking for that final one. But they're going to have to back out for now. Tarzan flag and drags out of there. Sorry, I should say Kanavi, as Shanks will make it at least one back, but another big win for TES.
I don't think more things could have gone wrong for AL in that fight. Almost every single major ability they threw out ended up completely whiffing its intended target, and Top Esports more than happy to be able to capitalize on the mistakes. It's once again Creme who ends up really benefiting, but we're gonna get a replay here. Tarzan ends up going in with the Q. Kael has the handshake, but just pushes him out of the way of Hong. We end up getting the Orianna ball thrown in as the Renata ultimate hits no one, I believe, or I think it does hit JackeyLove, but really, it's not particularly effective, and the shockwave as well, not really landing on a priority target, and now Shanks is in danger.
He already flashed. He's certainly going to go down there. As things falling apart quickly for our defending champions against Top Esports, who have seemingly become the Panda's kryptonite here in Split 3.
It is just falling apart for AL. Everywhere around the map, Top Esports are just winning. TES are just better. It's actually insane to watch this team perform so well and for AL to just constantly be in these bad positions. But you want to give credit where credit is due. The flash came in from Shanks, but unfortunately with Hong in the area, it's not really able to be salvaged. So it's a 1.7k gold lead for Top Esports once again at 10 minutes here. And, you know, we'll have to see if they can hold on to it a little bit better than they did in game number 1.
Yeah, because obviously they held on to a big lead in game 1, and it was quickly tossed back into AL's side. Obviously, Top Esports won another fight after that to make it, you know, a 1-0 series lead, as you see at the top of your screen right now. But the way AL are built compositionally speaking, definitely opportunities for them to come back here in this game, specifically through their top side. Flandre having a good time so far in this laning phase. He's going to have to be a big part of what AL do with the remainder of this game with the help of Tarzan, who looks to be setting up for a play on Kanavi, but he misses the vault breaker, and now it's the flash away. A big cooldown utilized by the AL jungler, but now they're going to try to go for Kanavi, who has flash on his own. Cease and desist comes out, but 369 has popped the ward. Then a nice shockwave coming through from Shanks will pick up another kill finally into the hands of anyone's legend. Creme uses his ultimate defensively. They're going to use the blast cone to escape, and AL only getting one off of the play.
It's a really nice find for AL. They at least were able to get one. That's a situation where I am a bit concerned with, you know, Creme having the only completed item, but Hope might be the target on the other side. He's going to play defensively enough to be able to get out of the circumstance. Now 369 could be in danger. The action never stops.
Flashes away from that vault breaker, gets hit by the decimating smash, but there's no follow-up here for Tarzan, so that'll be all up on the top side. Now on bottom, though, some supportal combat around this control ward, which is what you love to see. Handshake landing on the Hong. Might have gone a little bit too far forward, but will be able to survive through the ignite as we get another dive on the top side. We're fighting on both sides of the rift right now in this game, too. AL win up top, and nobody dies down bot.
It's another kill for AL. They will have to sacrifice the dragon to do so, which is definitely a loss. That will be second Drake for Top Esports. If they can continue to stack these up, a lot of that late game concern that you have is basically completely negated regardless of what the soul is, especially with Corki and Akali having gold. But AL have very much gotten themselves back into this game. They've targeted the members they know that they can get onto, like Kanavi and 369 in these lanes, and the gold that Top Esports had generated as a big lead basically neutralized here. There are still a lot of positives, a 1k gold lead in the mid lane for Creme, but the game a lot more playable now than it was 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, you know, JackeyLove and Creme gonna be problems here in this game, absolutely. But AL's top side of the map has gotten themselves back to a relatively even game state in terms of gold. The major objectives, of course, still very much on TES's side, having the grub lead and those first two dragons. There's another mountain dragon across the rift as well. We talk about how AL's team could be a little bit lower damage in these team fights. If they lose the soul to TES, that'll make things even harder.
Yeah, you cannot give that over. If you are AL, it would basically be your losing condition in this game. Not that things are super easy for you, but we highlighted it. I highlighted it in draft. This Scion is the biggest piece of this AL comp in terms of just the way that everything breaks down. If you have that Scion online, if you can really separate him, it's going to be a lot easier for AL to play out this late game, and that's exactly what has ended up happening here is JackeyLove continues to try and pressure out Shanks, but Tarzan once again might be the target in his own jungle.
Yeah, Hong, blast cone's over, and it's going to be smited away by Tarzan. Now the fight could potentially begin as Shanks stamps too far forward. Going to try to get followed up here by the Vibe, but there's just not enough damage just yet. Going to be a nice hostile takeover coming through from Kael to buy some time. In comes Hope. Going to at least pick one kill up, and the bailout will come through. But the numbers are just on TES's side. 369 will end the world of anyone's legends under their mid-tier 1 and pick up 4 kills for TES.
absolutely massive for Top Esports. A very, very close exchange there that I'm happy to go over in a replay perhaps, because JackeyLove, with the pixel perfect flash to get out of the Renata ultimate, they lose that fight if he ends up, getting hit by the hostile takeover. So, really great stuff from JackeyLove to get out of that, but a great setup once again from TES. It's Hong who creates everything for this team. He's been on fire today, and once again expresses his skill on this route.
And Tarzan was able to successfully get this blue, but this is Shanks just severely out of position.
Yeah, he wants to grab this blue buff in terms of his jungler being able to pick it up, but has to basically die for it. The moment this hostile takeover comes in, look at the edge that JackeyLove is able to flash out onto, and that's the damage necessary to take down Tarzan and to turn this fight in favor of Top Esports. Really huge play from everybody involved, but it's a huge mistake, once again, from AL being in the wrong spot with bad setups, and this is something that has carried over from the first game into game number 2, and it's been a real issue for this team so far this year.
We thought maybe some of those inconsistencies were remedied going into the second round robin, where AL have been 3-0, right? Taking wins off of teams like BLG, IG, even Weibo, considered to be, at this point, a team very close to them in the standings. But Top Esports having none of it so far. And of course for them, after their struggles internationally, their struggles in the last playoffs, doing well in the regular season is nice, but what they really are hoping for is playoff performances, is international performances. But, you got to take care of business when you can. And right now, there's only these regular season games in front of them, and they're doing a good job with them.
Yeah, all you can do is beat the opponents that you are tasked to face, and right now, Top Esports is doing so, but they want to contest over this Herald. It's already getting very low.
Yeah, 5 members of AL are here. Soon we're getting matched by 5 of Top Esports. Flandre doing a nice job soaking up some damage on the front line. But the hostile takeover already coming through from Kael. Taking down Kanavi. But look at Creme in the back line. Able to one-shot Hope. The Shockwave does a lot. But the perfect execution from Creme is way more. Flandre now separate from the rest of his team. But Creme will fall. Tarzan doing a nice job keeping his team in this team fight. That's just a 3v3 that has been opened up. Gatling gun open for JackeyLove. Will force Flandre and Kael away, as the health bars are still on Top Esports' side after the 2-for-2.
Man, that could have gone just slightly differently if we had a little bit more damage from Shanks. He ends up hitting a really crucial shockwave in that fight, but it's just not enough damage to actually tear down the backliners of Top Esports. Creme can't really be stopped at this point. He has gotten so strong on this Akali that he's going to be able to break through somebody in these fights. And when Kanavi goes so aggressive as a setup, all you can really do is follow. We're going to get to see a replay in this instance. It's 369 and Kanavi stepping up, and the moment he gets handshake, he just says, all right, screw it, I'm going in. Hope and Kael, you're going to have to deal with it. The hostile takeover does come out, and unfortunately does fall to his own teammate, but at this point, Creme is in a great spot to clean up. Again, if there's a little bit more damage on that shockwave, maybe things go a tad bit different, but Creme is able to survive and really thrive at the end of this fight, even if Tarzan does end up pulling it back with some really nice plays there. So, well played overall, I would say, by AL, but Top Esports just a little bit too far ahead.
It is going to be the Rift Herald picked up for anyone's Legend, but it'll come at the cost of a big chunk of damage, if not the entirety of this bot lane tier 1, and also inner workings on the Dragon Pit that would be Mountain Soul Point for TES. Tarzan immediately will pop that Herald in the mid lane to try to generate some extra pressure. The mid tier 1 going to be the target, but already TS have gotten a tower in response, so an even trade at the very least for the Split 1 champions. They will be able to take this tower in the mid lane. Anyone's Legend retreating back to their base. They will not be able to initially start up this dragon.
Yeah, this is well played by Top Esports. They recognize that AL can't walk up. They can't start this dragon. So why not just start taking a lot of the standing gold on the map? Why not send Creme bot lane and 369 top lane to grab those towers? Shanks still potentially looking to catch this wave on the top side with Tarzan in the area, but it's still going to be Dragon for Top Esports. It doesn't matter that they move players to the other side of the map. They understand how much pressure they really do control. This is Soul Point on Mountain Soul for Aatrox, Jarvan, Rel. Even Akali with Mountain Soul can be very, very difficult to deal with. And so things are getting very, very dire for AL quickly.
Yeah, I mean, the damage just really is not fully there, especially with Hope being very significantly behind at this point on the Kalista as we get later and later on into this game for anyone's legend. So TES getting the Mountain Soul would be absolutely massive for themselves to just continue to add to the durability that they do have. Gold lead only at 1,500 right now came in, but it feels like a lot more at this point.
I think in terms of map control, it absolutely is a lot more, just in terms of how much they're going to be able to get for free based on their setups. Now, not everything is going to be completely free. We've already seen Top Esports with a lead throw at Otacon, which is spawning in just under a minute here. We will see if that ends up being a bit of a problem for them again, but at least for now, they should have all the pressure in the world to be able to get around there. As long as they can neutralize Tarzan, who is the entirety of the gold on AL right now, then things should be just fine for Top Esports playing through their 2 carries.
Yeah, I mean, if Creme and JackeyLove, they're in prime position right now to really have a great performance. And for Creme on the Akali, I mean, I know a lot of the time in recent splits, for TES especially, like, he's been known as being the, like, kind of a control mage player, somebody who's able to just, like, you know, play the Azir, be a consistent force, and, you know, for this team. He was known on these assassins like far before that, right? When he was on OMG, what got him an opportunity to play on a team like TES. And so very cool to see him once again on a pick like this, 6-1-2 on this Akali, having himself a very good showing at the moment. And just given the way the game has gone, K-Man, you're expecting even more of that as we continue to progress.
Yeah, let's not forget OMG Creme from back in the day, spamming Akali and Sylas every single game. This is a guy who very much feels comfortable on these champions and can completely take over games in these circumstances. Kael potentially caught out here. Top Esports a little bit slow on the react. They're not quite in the range to be able to fully capitalize. But once again, it's just free engage for TES as they set up around the Otacon. And it's so hard to face check this if you are AL because of the amount of setup that TES have. You walk into a Jarvan or an Akali, it could immediately be game over.
Yeah, Otacon spawning on the top side, which is unusual, at least, you know, over the last couple of patches in terms of where teams really like to prioritize their combat. But looks like that is going to be where Top Esports set up camp, at least for now. A teleport has come in from Flandre, so they are fully committing for this on AL's side. And Top Esports are okay with that. However, 369's at half HP. He's going to have to go back to base. Top Esports maybe try to play this one out a little bit slower now.
Yeah, this is a tough setup, I would say, for TES because Creme is a little bit out of position in terms of looking for this fight. Flandre very much able to zone it off. 369 quite low. You don't want to overextend here and throw things away. You certainly don't want to flip it in the way that you did in game 1, but here we go.
Kael gets flag and drag. That could be big danger, but it gets Fates called back away. Nice engage from Hong, though, and the Cataclysm will find 2. Shockwave, though, on the other side is big from Shanks. Will it be enough, though, as JackeyLove still untouched? Tarzan doing his best to try to keep things alive. The bailout going to save 1, but not enough. It's 4 kills coming over to TES, and JackeyLove and 369 will stand tall.
What a close fight, all things considered. I think AL did the best they could in that instance, holding a lot of their key ultimates for, you know, key times, but Kael getting chunked out at the start of the fight and really not having the HP advantage and certainly having the gold disadvantage at this moment ends up really coming back to bite them. I think Tarzan played really well in that exchange, but once again, it's TES coming out on top. This looks just like a standoff, at least for now, but it is Top Esports who makes the call to go in again. It's Kanavi going in first, and Hong with the re-engage. The flash ult onto Hope and onto Shanks is absolutely massive. The Cataclysm following it up does so much damage, and while the Shockwave is doing quite a bit to be able to lock into the cage, at this point it's already so difficult with the lack of health you have on your carries. JackeyLove gets to free fire on the backline. Tarzan tries his best to pull this back, but he just cannot. Top Esports a little bit too far ahead, but AL gonna try and pressure them out, starting the Otacon.
They're gonna start this one, and Tarzan doing a lot of damage right now on AL's side. Kanavi very far away, so they're gonna actually sack this one and set themselves instead up to take this mid lane tier 1, maybe even a tier 2, and get themselves prime positioning around what would be a mountain soul for them. So a conscious effort by TES to give away the Otacon, and we'll see if it ends up working out for them. See an unstoppable onslaught being used by Flandre to make sure that 369 does not take yet another tower, as it is a nice bleed of gold going over to TS's side.
Yeah, you can't throw at Otacon if you don't contest at Otacon. So I guess that really is kind of the mentality here for TES, but you're absolutely right. The Dragon is the priority here. It's Soul. It's spawning in 10 seconds. Every bit of setup has to go towards this objective, and right now that is clear for both teams that they really want to be able to prioritize this. 369 can be caught, though.
They're going straight for 369. It could give enough time here for TES to start the Dragon, but instead, they're looking to cut off Kael. He gets taken down before he even uses the bailout on himself. It'll come down with Kanavi making it 1-for-1 so far, but Hove gets singled out by 369. Tarzan, though, will lock down the Aatrox, but Creme is able to get one right back. It's a 3v2 opened up. Flandre and Shanks against the world, but Top Esports are the world of the LPL right now, and they're able to take down Shanks, single out Flandre, and pick themselves up an ace.
It is huge for Top Esports. It's a miracle play for AL, or at least an attempted miracle play to try to catch 369 out on the bottom side of the map. They want to turn on to Kanavi as fast as possible, but it just takes too many resources in order to burst down this Jarvan. And unfortunately, the mispositioning of Hope on this Kalista ends up really coming back to bite anyone's legend. The fight does not go their way. Top Esports are going to secure this Mountain Soul, and that very well could be the final nail in the coffin.
The Soul, the team fight, everything going TS's way here in this second game, as it looked like initially a nice pick on a 369, but Top Esports do a great job of collapsing.
Yeah, again, it just takes so much to burst down Kanavi. Creme with the stopwatch ends up coming in really clutch. He doesn't take any damage from the shockwave. It lets him fully play this fight out as aggressively as possible. And at this point, the two carries are still alive for Top Esports. If you can't get on Creme and you can't get on JackeyLove, you cannot win these fights, regardless of who you end up taking down. And that's really been the problem for AL. They cannot separate their own carries. Hope ends up falling quite early in that fight as well. It really ends up coming back to bite them, despite how great the map state is. Gold lead still within reason for AL, but the Mountain Soul certainly makes that a bit wonky in terms of calculations.
Yeah, I mean, Kalista, those spears are going to feel like toothpicks right now into the TS composition, as Hope is not nearly far enough ahead for this Kalista to do any sort of meaningful damage. Neither is Shanks, who's had a tough series overall once again. Creme getting the better of him here on this Akali, 11, 2, and 6. On the pick, as Baron has just now spawned, and Top Esports have a very easy time to start this one off, especially with those Mountain Soul shields. They're going to force AL to try to face check because they know they will win a 5v5 fight at this point. Oh, and they go. Immediately, Hong going in with the two-man Magnus Storm, taking down Hope as we speak. It is nobody taken down just yet on Top Esports, as the damage just is not there. A double kill for Kanavi as 369 is chasing down Shanks. Baron easily on the menu now for TS.
And that is the dagger. That is the game-ending play, and who else but Hong, who has been massive for Top Esports over the course of the entirety of this set, makes the gigantic play. They burst down the primary duo of AL, and they grab themselves a Baron for their troubles. Grapes, Top Esports are just better right now. There is no disputing it, and we can see it in the replay here. Hong on a ward. Full vision of this. AL feel like they can walk up, but they don't respect the engage, and the damage coming out from JackeyLove to be able to immediately punish the engage is absolutely massive from this point onwards. Even with the Corki chunked out, there is just not enough damage on the side of AL to ever make this fight worth it. And it's the proactivity, it's the aggressiveness, and it's the great play of Top Esports that really separates them.
And, you know, part of the explanation of why the Kalista Renata had such a tough win rate at MSI is when you play against competitions like Top Esports is right now, very difficult for them to function after the first couple of minutes, especially if the laning phase does not go perfectly their way. As JackeyLove and Hong doing another terrific job here in this series. CS is looking to get into the double-digit mark in the win column, become the first team in the LPL to do that this split. And they just have the finishing touches at this point. Baron buff available for the next 2 minutes, and they can retreat right back to the Elder Dragon if the game's not over by then.
That is certainly the call here, but Top Esports don't want to wait that long. They are posturing so aggressively around these towers. But the AL is looking for a potential engage, though.
Yeah, already. The Vault Breaker forward from Tarzan, but Look at the flank from Hong at this point, and in the meantime, it's JackeyLove just taking down the entirety of that tier 2 turret in the bottom lane. Immediately is AL going for something on a 369. A pick would be nice, but the rest of the base could be in tatters.
He's still alive.
Is still alive. Finally gets taken out by the Rend of Hope, but Hope's in a lot of trouble right now as Creme is looking to dive on top of him with the perfect execution. There's the bailout, there's the Magnet Storm, and there is the game. Top Esports watched AL triumph in Split 2. They watched their international success, and they took that damn personally. A season sweep over the defending champions in Split 3 as TES are the best team in the LPL right now.
Top Esports prove without a shadow of a doubt that going into the end of the year, they are your favorites. They are your heroes. And I know LPL fans don't love to hear this, but your hopes rest on Top Esports right now because they look like the single best team in the LPL.
No notes for TES, a very clean 2-0 win over the defending champions, and man, they are frightening going into the playoffs, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh boy, we are really ramping up for Top Esports now. This is the best they've looked all year long. I think even going back to Split 1, can you remember a time where they were this dominant in terms of their victories? AL obviously struggling quite a bit in this series, but Top Esports is forcing them into a lot of these bad decisions that they end up making. This team is on fire, and they are looking incredibly clean.
And TES jumps up to 10-2 with matchups against FPX and Team WE to round out their Group Ascend double round robin. Just a terrific position to be in. Obviously, playoffs become the most important thing. You remember how strong TS was all season long in Split 2 after coming off of that international performance at First Stand, or lack of that thereof. But then they immediately faltered in the playoffs. They lost to WE in the lower bracket. They want to make sure that doesn't happen again. But K-Man, right now, all we can talk about is how they have looked in the regular season since. And with Hong slotted into this roster, this was a perfect example of what he was able to do, as he had a tremendous series in this one, setting up both JackeyLove on the Corki and Creme, who got into the double-digit marks in kills on the Akali this time around.
I mean, you hit the nail on the head, Graves. Like, what a series from Hong. This was awesome stuff from him. I think you could argue this is his best series of the entire split up until this point, maybe of the entire year. He's had some really great performances, but I think he's kind of blended into the background, or JackeyLove's taken more of an obvious approach in terms of who's carrying. There was no denying who the focal point was in this series. It was Hong on these engagers, on these champions that could go forward and create a lot of action for TES. And if he's going to get back to being one of the scarier supports in the LPL like he has been for the past 3 years, yeah, Top Esports are going to start looking like that pseudo-super team that we thought they were going to be.
They look like it right now, going up to 10-2, as you say. On AL's side, though, tough loss for them as their win streak does come to an end. They were looking like the second round robin was going to be up to them. However, remember, they were not perfect in the regular season either. They were behind Top Esports in the standings going into the playoffs until, of course, they were able to take the crown. And so, for them, remember, championship points very much on their side. The most consistent team throughout the season so far. AL just have to take a deep breath. They have JDG, WE, FPX remaining in their schedule. Win those games, get yourself a top 4 seed, and then lock in for the playoffs. Make sure you are fully in the best headspace for that. But it really feels like some of the decisions that we saw from some of these players, was not fully aligned. Tarzan with the rest of the team. I also did not love the draft that AL set up for themselves in Game 2. Feels like just lack of damage in general for them. Kind of has been a theme at times, and it has cost them games at certain points, and I feel like this was a prime example of that.
Yeah, the reality of this draft is you're relying on fights being so slow that they're, that the Scion or the Vi end up being a lot more useful than maybe you would expect. The Orianna can be a primary damage carry in the later part of the game, when in reality you're going up against Akali and even like Rel and Jarvan, who can basically force these fights to go as quickly as they need them to go, and you're just never going to get those situations where you want to play around the same spot. So it just ends up being a draft that is too hard to execute, and the mistakes on the map and their bad macro, quite frankly, throughout the series certainly did not help things.
A lot of questions still to be answered. Again, personally, I was like, oh, okay, AL are fully back. You thought so as well. But this is a proof that either that is not necessarily the case, or Top Esports is the best team ever, or maybe a little bit of both right now, as they're looking very unstoppable at this point in the season. TES in first place. They will continue to be, as we get our updated standings as well to round out the day here on LPL English. It was a shorter day, but a fun one, certainly so, K-Man. We get both first place.
Game above Weibo Gaming in terms of just where they're at. And so, you know, I know their schedule's, you know, kind of a cakewalk, but right now, like, any win matters for AL in terms of making sure they can guarantee themselves top 4. And, you know, I think a lot of the negatives of that game were reflected in the damage charts for a lot of those champions, namely the Kalista doing almost nothing in that game.
Yeah, a little bit disappointing of what was supposed to be a real barn burner of a series, but it felt really controlled by TES the entire time. And again, credit to them for being able to accomplish that. As we take a look at some of these replays, again, just Hong's decisiveness really coming into fruition. But on AL's side as well, you know, Shanks really slumping in this part of the split definitely has to be a part of the conversation as well. There's just a lot of things overall that AL feel like they have not been able to fully, you know, accomplish like they were in the earlier splits, and that's something they're gonna have to try to figure out as we get to the playoffs. And even if they don't immediately qualify for Worlds, then once we get to that regional finals.
Yeah, I think really it's about, can AL find that form to get them in the upper tier. I think even at their worst, they feel top 3 or top 4. Like, that's like the bare minimum of what AL should be able to accomplish, but that's a disappointment. Like, this team is not trying to make Worlds. This team's trying to win the LPL and trying to compete to win Worlds. We've had our LPL winners consistently be able to perform at the World Championships, and AL looks to be a team that can replicate that kind of form, and right now it just doesn't feel like they are quite there in terms of where their talent level is at. But I do want to really make one thing clear in terms of my take on this series. I think a lot of people are going to look at the fact that Top Esports almost threw game number 1, or AL had moments in game 2, and kind of say that, you know, neither team played great today. Top Esports was on point today. I think their setups were great, and I think their execution was great. AL just didn't really have an answer for it, and obviously they underperformed, but I don't think that should be a slight onto Top Esports. I think that should be in favor of them, if anything.
Just ignore that one Otacon fight in game 1, and the rest of it was pretty
everything
clean.
Else, everything,
yeah.
and cut that.
Never happened. Yeah, surely. Lot to look forward to though for TS, and also just for the LPL regular season. Obviously, we have our top 2 teams like, you know, BLG and TS like at the top of the standings. IG making a run for it as well, but with AL now dropping to 6 and 5, still flexibility here in that top 4. You know, Weibo or JDG technically have the opportunity to get in there. I mean, now you look at anyone's Legends, they play up against JD Gaming in just a couple of days, and that's going to end up being a pretty important game for them, for both parties, to see if JDG have any chance of getting into that top 4, or if AL are just going to handle it.
Yeah, I mean, if AL struggle at all against JDG, I think it's time to slam the big red panic button in terms of how things are going for AL, because that should not be a matchup that on paper they are struggling with really at all. JDG has looked better, I would say, with Joel coming in. Not something I expected, but certainly, you know, a pleasant surprise, I think, from last week. And, you know, we'll see how they end up, you know, performing against AL. But this is a team that, you know, we already talked about them needing to win here today, let alone going undefeated at the end of this split. They need to start picking up their wins now.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the worst thing. Everyone qualifies at least to the play-in stage, but especially when you think about, like, how strong the teams at the top are versus maybe you can get an easier go of things towards the bottom if you get a better seed. Like, there's always things at play that do make the regular season important. And so for anyone's Legend, like, getting these wins to wrap up, securing a top 4 would just help you breathe a little bit easier, not forcing any more of that panic, as you did say. Of course, you know, the Group Nirvana teams are what they are, but having to play a best-of-5 series to make or break your season is never a position you want to be in. As, hey, shout out to Hong. I know that Creme had a great game, but Hong also did on the rel. Back-to-back MVPs for the newest member of Top Esports.
More than deserved for Hong this series. He was the best player on the Rift, and it was not particularly close. Again, I know a lot of people, you know, rightfully so, were looking at what Hong was for Weibo and seeing a player that maybe, you know, was a bit of a gamble for Top Esports, but that gamble has very clearly paid off, and they are benefiting a lot from the added energy that he brings.
And a lot to look forward to for Hong as he tries to make it back to that international stage with TES. As anyone's Legend, time's ticking, but it's not fully midnight just yet. A lot of opportunities for them to still take advantage of, but definitely would have preferred a better result from your defending LPL champions. Looking a little bit more like Split 1 than Split 2 here on LPL English as we wrap up the day. 2 fun series, one in Nirvana, one in Ascend. Before we go, want to give another big shout out to both our analysts in Slayer and Cubby, as well as our wonderful guest in Rhino over from ProDiff and the NACL alike. If you again want to get some coaching from him or any of the other players that ProDiff does offer coaching from, you can use the code LPL10 to get 10% off on your order from players like Rhino, as you see down there. We also want to give a big shout out to our Elite Coffee supporters, Aaron Soup, Among, Forest Without, and owners of Asmerl. Their pledged financial contributions help level up the broadcast and give back the cast and crew to strive to give you an English LPL product every day. We saw NIP 2-0 LNG in the final score here in our second series of the day. Anyone's Legends falling 2-0 to Top Esports. On behalf of our producer, Chippy, hey man, by my side on the color commentary, my name's Grapes. Thank you so much for tuning in to the LPL, and we'll see you all here same time, same place tomorrow.